What's up everyone, it's Tony G23 here and we're doing an investigation today into the world of rallying. Now the investigation we're going to do today is, which is faster, the Group B cars from the 80s or the Group A cars from the 90s? Because this has been a hot topic in my class, and what we're going to do is we're going to take two Lancia Deltas. One is the HF from the Group A era, the other one is the Delta S4 from the Group B era. I'm going to take them on to the Col di Turini, perhaps the most famous road in rallying, in the Alps of Monte Carlo. Now, the Group A car, it weighs just over a ton, it's got a couple of hundred horsepower, it's heavier and less powerful than the Group B car. So on paper this shouldn't win, but if it doesn't win, I'm actually interested to see how much slower it is than the Group B car. But then again, it might be faster. Who knows? So the way we're going to do this is we're going to take 3 times from specific points on the route. Okay, the first one is at a tunnel going into the mountainside. It's a few corners ahead, and I'm going to take the time from both cars, okay, at the tunnel point, so it's just around these few corners, and we're going to take some from a pile of rocks from the other side of the road. You will see them, but as we get to the tunnel, the time recorded by the Group A car is a 1:17.104. So when the next timing split will be at a pile of rocks on the right hand side of the road. I should say I'm not going to show you the full route because that'll take too long for this video. You only want to see the timing splits, so we're going to cut on to later on the route. A problem I had with both of these cars is using the handbrake, because the handbrake in Rfactor is rubbish, and I can't do rallying to save my life because I clipped a bank and I got sent over. So, but then again, I actually had a crash with the S4. I kind of overshot one of the hairpins. I went down a bit of a drop, but I was able to rejoin back on the road. So, I only lost about 5 seconds for each car, so it shouldn't make too much of a difference. But the next timing split is round here, so like this pile of rocks is where we'll take the next split, and the Delta Group A is a 5:39.349. So and the final split will be at the finish line. So yes, the Col di Turini is a really challenging road, so it's got plenty of slow corners and fast corners, so that's why I chose it for this experiment. Even though for both cars we do have to do a bit of man manoeuvring in the hairpins, but we're coming to the end of the stage now. It's a for both cars they were a sub 10-minute time, but the time for the Group A car is a 1:24.349. So now it's time for the Group B car. So the Delta S4 is the one I'll be using for the Group B cars, and the reason why I ended up using the Lancias is because, as you've guessed, only the Delta falls into the Group B and Group A categories of the rally cars I had available. I mean, I don't think Peugeot did one for Group A, nor did Audi. So the Delta S4 is lighter than the HF. Okay, it's got more power and more torque. So on paper at least, this car should win. That's it. That's in theory, anyways. However, when I was taking this car down the Col di Turini, I noticed something and compared to the Group A car, it's pretty big. Okay, this car will not stop, and it won't turn anywhere near as good as the Group A Delta. I mean, when I was taking this down the road, when I was taking this down the Col di Turini, I was constantly having to fight at the wheel, just trying to keep it in a straight line. And I was also having to brake a lot earlier than I was with the HF Group A car. Just to, yeah, I was braking as earlier than the Group A car just to slow it down for the corners. And because the car won't steer, it would often go into the barrier. So that is the problem I had with this Group B car, because I sometimes think it was too fast for this road. And there's another problem with the lack of steering. It was just too wayward. But at the first split, it was actually faster than the Group A car, a 114, which really took me by surprise. And there we go again. I mean, like I said, this car will not stop and it will not steer, because I think this car is too fast for this road. So I was really having to concentrate here. So coming towards the second split, and the lack of brakes and steering in this car was proving to be a massive problem for me, because I feel like I was just losing so much time. I actually had a crash. Yes, there you go. So so yeah, I had a crash with both cars, and it was slightly embarrassing. I think the S4's crash was more costly. So with that, I didn't think, right, this car may be slower, because the Col di Turini has some very fast sections which this car absolutely dances through, but then again, it has some really slow sections. So that is where I crashed in the HF. I made the same mistake with the S4, and I was trying to get it off the bank, but the lack of steering made it very difficult. So coming towards we're getting towards the second split time now, and through this section I was actually partially on full throttle, which in this car is quite astonishing, because the lack of weight and the amount of power and torque in this car simply takes your breath away. So lack of steering and braking still an issue with this car, but coming up to the second sector split, it's actually lost time to the Delta, a 5:48.0. So it has lost a lot of time to the Delta Group A car. So another problem I have with this car is that it has all this power, yet on this rally stage you can't use all of it, which is a real shame. Whereas with the Group A car, it only had about 250 horsepower, and yet you could use it more often than you would with about 560. So cutting towards the end of the stage, it's now I look at the clock and think, oh my god, this is going to be terribly close between these two cars. So I'm literally giving it all. I was literally giving it all I got in the final sector for this car. So once again, the lack of steering and brakes, I feel like, really let this car down. If it had good brakes and good steering, it would have posted a much faster time. But the time in itself is a 9:23.5 from the Delta S4. That's less than a second in it. So my conclusion is that I'd rather have the Group A car. It stops, it steers, you can use all of the power more often, and it's just generally more fun. The Group B car, on the other hand, is much more wayward, it's a little more slidey, there's too much play in the steering, and it won't stop. But if you're going on a flat out stage, like a really fast one, I recommend you use the Group B car for that. But anyway guys, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Thank you so very much for watching, and goodbye.